like the movie so much that it's hard to, what do you call it, analyze something you really, really like. Like, all the lines to me are very important. Like, they tie into the story, or I laugh at them, or I'll end up quoting them all the time. And I watched it again last night, and while I was eating dinner, to just sit back, and I was enjoying it again. And of course,
it was good, honestly. I didn't know if I was gonna like it too much because, the year I was born, so I thought it was gonna be kind of outdated, but it was really good.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. To kind of go over the film, of course, like I said, the guy who wrote it, he visited his 10-year reunion. Then John Cusack picked the script up, and then he wanted to write it in his own image of what his style is to kind of fit him. And I was noticing, I said, this is before the days where they did like the shaky cam documentary styles, and this would have been perfect for that, because everything just goes into everything. Like, there's no stopping point. Like, it's random. It's like if you would live real life, you'll go into one scene and then something else will pop up and you're like, it'd be very random. And then they'll have these like documentary type of dialogue that is really good, because the dialogues are really good. These people act like real people, even though it's very different. But if you live in that type of area, like Grosse Pointe is obviously the upper crust suburbia of Detroit, where you have the people that are well-to-do, and they're very non-emotional about things, but they know you just make money, raise your kids, and that's what it's about, trying to fit into the right country club and all those things. Great. And it's kind of that world. Yeah, but that's what it is, yeah. And why the city of Detroit is actually burning there.
I don't want to say too much, because I feel like I just have
we are recording. About it. Yeah. But anyways, and I'll go start. Guys, we're talking about the film Grosse Point Blank, which is a kind of a cult classic, and it is, I'll be honest, one of my favorites. And I didn't want to throw another Tim Burton film at you, so I said, let's do Grosse Point Blank, because another favorite of mine is a Tim Burton film, but I'll introduce it to you later. But this one, I thought this would be a good one to introduce. It's for me, how I became a fan of this is you go back to the movie Better Off Dead with John Cusack. Have you ever seen Better Off Dead?
I don't think so, no.
Okay,
is it also an older movie? I haven't seen a lot of older
movies. It's older than this one.
I don't know what, you gotta know, I lived under a rock before you adopted me.
Before I lived under a rock, I just scraped you underneath there.
Yeah, pretty much. You just lived under a rock and you're like, I'm gonna take this home.
So, Grosse Point Blank. Yeah, let me see. I'm gonna get my pitch. Get the camera on me for a minute. So, Grosse Point Blank is, of course, to me, it seems like it's a sequel to Better Off Dead. Better Off Dead was made 10 years earlier. This film was around 96 and 97, which is 10 years after Better Off Dead. And I like to think that the character in Better Off Dead, this is him 10 years later, which John Cusack played. And to try to explain the premise, I'll explain the premise of Better Off Dead. It's basically a teenager trying to commit suicide. And it's a black comedy like this one is. And it's so funny because, of course, again, the character in Grosse Point, Grosse Point Blank, but, no, sorry. The character in Better Off Dead's first name is Martin Lane. And the character in this film is Martin as well. Yeah, Martin Blank. And the character in Better Off Dead is Martin Lane. So, and you could think about, but the thing is about Martin Lane, though, he's in Northern California around the snow and all of that. And so you can't really tie those two together. That's unfortunately. But they're such similar styles because they're both played by John Cusack. And the film is, like I said, Better Off Dead. He's trying to commit suicide, and there's just hilarity why he's trying to commit suicide, which is crazy for black comedy. Now, when you're younger and you watch this as a teenager, it's kind of hard to watch, but when you get older, you think, man, yeah, I've been there and I've tried that, I've done that, it didn't work. It's like all the things that a teenage person does to kind of commit suicide, it's in that film. And it's a very black comedy, and it is then you get this film 10 years later where he's a hitman and he is being psychoanalyzed by his therapist, and he's going through all the problems that a first world person goes through, because like I said, this is first world America. This is the hard-hitting make your money, kill or be killed analogy of this film. And it's the truth. People do compromise their morals to make money. That's the way it is, and this is that kind of funny outlook upon it. And also, we got a guy who is going through what we would call a catharsis type meaning in his life. He's realizing that what he's doing is not bringing him happiness, but he doesn't want to tie it into what he's doing, which makes it funny as well. But trying to get to you guys to understand, a lot of these people who watch this film or are a fan of the film, you know this already. The things you don't know about this film is probably, like I said, Cusack took it over the project and then got the funding for it. And of course, one of Disney's corporations went ahead and funded the film, and it became a success.
I noticed
some great
that.
acting.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there were rated R Disney movies.
Well, the first one is Down and Out in Beverly Hills, when Touchstone took over, and I think that's where Disney realized if we were going to make it in the world, we got to start making R-rated films. And Touchstone came around, and they had Hollywood Pictures. Like I said, we watched Pauly Shore, which was Hollywood Pictures. They had Touchstone, which was Ernest and all those, and then Touchstone became more family, and Hollywood became less family. Then you get the Weinsteins, which come in about this time to bring in, like the Miramax and all those type pictures, which were like what got Quentin Tarantino. And the guy who did this film, the director here, he was a Quentin Tarantino fan, and he kind of gave a little homage to him. The kickboxer in this is a real live kickboxer. Ben, they call him, and he's also the personal trainer for John Cusack, for martial arts as well. So, interesting film. I have to be honest, guys, I watched a lot of rom-coms during this time. It has that little bit of rom-com thing in it where it has that you sort of set up and then it kind of drops out and then you get the ending at the end. So, but there's more to it than just that. Like I said, every dialogue that you hear in this really plays out to something else. That's what's amazing. It's like you hear the little lines, but they always play something important later into the film. There is one repetitive line, but I believe that was meant to be edited out. And then when they did the TV version, then you have longer versions like him visiting his mom and then some repetitive lines. And that's to pad the film to make it longer for television. So that's the version we watched, because I don't think the original movie version is still out there, which was a little bit shorter and has a little bit faster pacing to it. So, what'd you think? I mean, as far as we've already discussed a little bit about this. Let's get into the story of the character. What's going on here? We've got the name of the film is Grosse Point Blank. I hate to repeat myself, but that's the truth, and it is what it is. So I'll let Kato go on with the story there. What do you?
So basically, we get introduced to this character of I just totally blanked. Martin Blank, right?
Yeah, Martin Blank.
Martin Blank. And he is a hitman, like a hired assassin guy. That's his profession. And the movie's starting out where he's like having dreams about this girl from his past and he can't forget about her. And then his secretary's talking about their 10-year high school reunion coming up. And is like, trying to push it on him that she wants him to go to this reunion. And she said, because I find it interesting that you came from somewhere. And I really, really liked that line. I thought that was a really good line.
And
I was her.
the secretary, by the way,
probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, the secretary, by the way, is paid by his sister, Joan.
Yeah.
Cusack. Yeah, which is really interesting. She does a really good job in that.
That's so funny. Yeah, she's really funny. I liked her character a lot.
A lot of her lines always were like stand-up comedy lines, which I thought were really good. So one of the first things is to establish a character. She sends him a job, which was a job to shoot a Greenpeace boat. And he was like, I've got scruples. Which is really interesting because it showed you that he does have a limit of what he does, and they try to make the character more likable, I guess you would say. But then you get the introduction of Dan Aykroyd's character, who's kind of our protagonist. He's the older hitman.
Oh yeah, hold on. What was that guy's name? I don't remember what his name was.
A grocer. Grocer.
Was it?
Yeah, that's why I remember calling him. And he is a hitman as well, but he wants to get all the hitmen under one roof, like a union.
Like an alliance.
The dwarf killers.
Hey, you want to join the League of Supervillains?
And he's like, I'm not going to join your union. I'm a lone gunman.
Part of your gang, boy. But he said, he's like, out of here with that shit.
But, and that was establishes Dan Aykroyd character. Great cast, by the way. We've already got John Cusack, Dan Aykroyd, Academy Award nominee. You also have, then of course, Joan Cusack, who just is really, really good as who's his sister, who plays the secretary. And it's hard to believe that them two growing up together.
They must have been they're funny. They're really funny. That's all I can really say. They must have, been funny.
I would say, like with John, I like when he does comedies. And I was a fan of him ever since Better Off Dead, because I knew something was new. Because he was in, I can't remember the Molly Ringwald film, and he played this nerdy character, and just like, that's just not him. He's more of a leading role guy. And then when he did Better Off Dead, and I mean, when people saw this film, I think a lot of people were like, oh, I don't know about this film. But when I saw it as a kid, I laughed. Every line was funny, because when I watched Better Off Dead, one of my favorite lines when he's trying to commit suicide, he's on the bridge, and he's trying to jump on the bridge, and his buddy comes in there. You don't need to commit suicide. And he goes to, he said, you need to take up your sax again, your saxophone, and everything back again, and try to get the girl and everything like that. And he says, so perk up, little buddy. And he hits him, and he falls off the bridge, and he lands into a pile of garbage, right?
Oh my
gosh. Back of a garbage truck. And here he comes going down the road, and he's got a banana split on his head, great flat shot like this, thinking about what just happened to him. And there's these two black gentlemen cutting limbs down for the power company, and they're looking down there. There you go again, throwing a perfectly good white boy out like that.
Oh my god.
It's just, and things were just so unexpected.
I feel like I wouldn't like that film when I was younger, but now that I'm older and have such a bleak outlook on life, I think that I might.
Yeah, and that's the same way it is. It just grows on you. I just never. I mean, the lines were so funny. It's like and I hate talking about another film, but I mean, the best example is, of course, he tries to drink paint thinner, right? And it's highly explosive. Just anything to kill himself, because he's finished with his life. And his mom brings over a family while he's trying to commit suicide. The neighbors, and he's sitting there. I want you to introduce you to your friends. They got a foreign exchange student and all this kind of thing. And he's like, okay. And he's sitting there, dressed up like in a house robe, the paint thinner. He puts it down on the table, right? And then the neighbor starts drinking it like brandy. Yeah, and she goes, Wow, this homemade gin you got is just like my mom and dad drinks. And then she starts lighting up a cigarette in the next scene. And then you see them driving down the road, and he's sitting there with the neighbor's son in the back. He says, "Oh, I'm sorry about your mom. I didn't. Who knew that stuff was highly explosive?" It's like, but the thing is, the next scene, she's yelling out for the son, and she's got tape around her mouth from the explosion.
Oh my gosh!
It's just a crazy film, man. One of these days we'll explore it together. I don't know how we got into that. Well, I could probably because of
similarities and then
similarities. Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think of this as the sequel. Like that would be the prequel. This is the sequel, and I try to pretend to that, but basically, Dan Aykroyd's character is trying to get him in this union of hitmen, and so we get another call to go to Miami, and something happens. What happens? It just doesn't work out.
When we get to Miami?
Yeah, Miami, where things change.
Well,
he gets a.
That's where he goes home, right?
No, Miami's where where it ends up being home. So he's gets a. He tells his secretary, John Cusack's character. He says, "Is everything ready for Miami?" And that's where he tries to poison the guy while he's sleeping.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And then, so it doesn't, he's like trying to poison the guy through the air vents, but it doesn't go right and he wakes up, so he has to end up coming down there and just shooting him. And the higher ups are upset about that. I was really confused. I totally forgot about that scene.
And be honest, I watched this film several times. I never tied in Miami to the Detroit thing. But it turns out the reason was to make amends for his mess up in Miami. And she said, and another thing I feel about this film is it has a couple of places where they feel like fate ties into your life sometimes. And so this is one part where it's like she tells him, he said, the gods are telling you must go to Miami. You must go home. You must go to Detroit. And, because one of the canaries about to sing, he's like, this guy's going to testify against the company. So he has to do a job and to make amends, and he's going to do the job. And then, of course, one of my favorite lines is when she tells him that he has to go home. He says, "Look!" And he looks at her outfit and he sees that soldier type thing she's wearing. He's like, Sergeant Pepper. Because she looks like something from the Beatles album. He says, "Look, Sergeant Pepper, I'm not going to go back to Detroit." But he ends up going, of course. And so we have our story. And so, which he gets got the plane ticket to go to, and don't forget your identity, but he has to stop by the therapist, who's played by one of the best comedy guys to play therapist from Catch-22, who's the psychiatrist who just does a really good job. And of course in Hollywood, one thing is they always can write therapists roles really good because everybody's in therapy in Hollywood. So this is one of those scenes.
It was really well written.
Yeah, what has happened at this therapy session this time?
Oh my gosh, so the therapist first of all is like, okay, well, first of all, I told you I was not comfortable treating you, so I don't even know why you're here. So I thought that was really funny. Oh my god, what?
He says, because you make me uncomfortable. He says, "How do I make you uncomfortable?" "Well, you told me what you did for a living."
Yeah.
And then my favorite part is like, "And plus I know where you live." "Oh, right. No, Martin. That makes me feel uncomfortable. Don't be saying that."
He was like, "I'm joking."
But you did think about it.
That's so
Go
crazy.
see, what's her name? Go see Debbie. Don't shoot nobody.
Yeah, don't shoot nobody.
The therapist, he tries to need some advice, so he asks the therapist if he should go to the reunion, and talks about the recurring dreams thing, and I've talked about, it's so weird. The older I get, the more dreams I have about people I know, and they just get weird all the time. I had a dream this last night. It involved gorillas and spiders, and I almost thought, man, that would make a great movie. Yeah, the world was invaded by gorillas and spiders. So you look out the windows, there would be like spider webs or gorillas, like giant gorillas. Probably about 10 foot, 12 foot tall gorillas.
Whoa.
Yeah, and then I woke up.
It's like Attack on Titan with gorillas and spiders.
Yeah, and I was like, man, that might make a good movie. So, it'd be like one of those sci-fi movies, gorillas and spiders, be like Sharknado.
Gorillas versus spiders.
Grillantula. It'd be called Grillantula.
Grillantula.
Because they, you know, on those sci-fi movies, you got Python versus Boa, or Boba Fett versus Han Solo. No, it'd be, yeah, Grillantula, and so it'd be gorilla. But that was my dream last night, and it's like, how do you analyze that one? And I don't even know what I did with my dream book. My girlfriend bought me a dream book, and we used to call and try to translate all my life. This is the reason why I probably don't have a wife, because when you got girlfriends and what you talk about your dreams and stuff, and then you be looking in the dream book to see what it means. And you get weird answers. I wish I knew where it was, because I need to find out what gorillas and spiders mean.
Yeah, right.
Be interesting.
I've never had a gorilla dream. That's for sure.
But he's dreamed about this girl for
10 years.
He said 6 years. Yeah. Crazy.
And it was a 10-year reunion, so that makes sense.
Yeah. I think he said 6 years, though. Like 3 or 4 years he didn't think about her, and then he started dreaming about 6 years.
Oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
But still, I don't know. I mean, how it is, because trying to remember my last really bad breakup, because how it affected me. When you're younger, your breakups are worse. Like I talked to a therapist, she said, your first is always the worst. Like,
yeah,
you and I can talk about this because she's fired, but so there's no doctor-patient violation. All right. But she said, yeah, that your breakup with your first girlfriend is your worst, and that's the one you revisit. And that's the one you have dreams about. Did you, I'm like, yeah, I can see that. And I wonder, because this is very important in his life, so I can relate to that. Mm-hmm. But I can't remember that far. That's the bad thing about it.
High school's really big for a lot of people, and I'm just extremely happy that I'm not one of those people.
No, you're out of high school now. So.
I'm going to be like, oh, an invite to my 10-year reunion? Nope.
You'll change your mind 8 years from now.
I don't know. I might. I don't know, though.
Because you'll start thinking, it's like with me, is like I suffered a lot of this depression, but then I realized that I had a lot of job changes. And I realized that I never connected with the people that I left at a job. Like, I gained friendship, then I'd leave for more money, and then I kept on going up and up, and then I was like, oh, wow. Those people, whatever happened to Joe? It's like I worked with him 1 year, and then I don't see him, and then I go to the next job, and I work for them for a year, or I go to this job in a year, and you keep on going, right? Because you're elevating up on the ladder. And then you realize, oh my gosh, I miss that person. Because those person, do something. You don't think about it at the time, but then 10 years down the road, you're like, oh, they did do something funny. Or something that you were appalled at when you were a kid. 10 years later, you'll find funny. That's the truth. I'm not making this up. Like if, let's say you were bullied when you were a kid, and at that time it's frightening. Like someone takes your pants from the gym and you got to run around the school naked looking for your pants, whatever, and you're appalled and everything like this. But 10 years later, you're going to be down the road doing your job, and you're going to be driving with. I'm not making this up. This actually happens in your life. You actually find those appalling things that happen to you funny. And that's the truth. It's just the way we change. And sometimes then might even thank the person for stealing your shorts. Because you're like, I gained so much freedom when you took my shorts. And I ended up in the girls' locker room. Because I ended up marrying Betty. Or whatever, you know. But that's for another time in another place. All right.
I guess I have a few years to decide that I care. I have been recently hanging out with someone that I knew in high school, though, and it's really interesting because he was someone who wanted to be friends with me ever since, like, the first grade. So we had been friends since around the first grade, and it's really cool to know someone for that long who's, like, accepted all of these different changes in my life as well and still, like, cares about me the same, you know? It's just cool to have a friend that I've known for a long time and just...
Well, the weirdest is like when you get 10 years down the road and someone confesses that they have a crush on you and you can't do anything about it now. That's scary, because I remember that happened to me, and it's like, oh man, I had the biggest crush on you, blah, blah, blah. And you're 10 years in a relationship that's going really well, and you know that if they had told you this 10 years ago, it'd been a different story. And the only thing you can really do is this. I mean, because you can't say anything, you can't do anything, and you gotta walk off.
She's like,
you really do?
Okay.
Because what can you do?
Nothing.
I mean, nothing. Because you should have said something 10 years ago, it would have been a different story, right? Mm-hmm. But that's for another time or place. All right, so getting to Detroit now, and like I said, I don't know much about Grosse Point Blank. You know, I understand. Like I said, I grew up in suburbia, but not like super gated suburbia. You know, or anything like that. Like this is, and I mean, this is like the heart of rich white America right here, where he's at. And it's not Hollywood America. It's not like working class America. But this is like where your rich people went to school, and everything like that, and just a nice area altogether. And he's coming back to it, but he notices some changes, and he goes ahead and bites the bullet and faces his 10-year problem with Debbie. So how does that go?
Well, he decides he's going to show up to her work, which is the radio station, while she's live, which I feel like, first off, is a bad idea.
Yeah.
But then he responds by putting him on air and putting him on the spot, and is like, yo, what happened? And he's like, can we talk about this later? And she's like, no. It's like, okay, well, I mean, dude, what did you expect? You kind of like... Apparently what she says is that he left her on prom night waiting to be picked up in a $700 prom dress. That's what I remember being the argument.
Yeah, and guys, I did not go to a senior prom. All right, so I can't relate to this. I don't know how it is, but it seems like it's a lot of torture. My brother did. The closest thing my oldest brother did go to a prom.
I went to Ace, and I was like, hell no.
Yeah. The closest thing we got was raves and anime balls, I guess. That's all we're going to do.
Woo!
Always a raver, never a bride. Anyways, which is probably a good thing. So, yeah, I've been through like wedding planners and proms and all that stuff. This is where you realize if you go through that crap, to me, I mean, like I said, I'm not talking about experience because I don't know, but looking from the outside on the inside, it's like, this is why I'm different. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't feel like I belong with those people. You know what I'm saying? It's like...
Yeah, no, the entire reunion where he was, like, seeing different people and talking to different people and, like, doing different interactions, I'm just, like, sitting there horrified. And I'm just like, I really don't want to go to a reunion. Why would I ever want to go to a reunion? And then he's just like, oh, Kathy. And
Be the envy of your friends. Wear the sexy cosplay t-shirt. Wear it on a podcast. Wear it to convention. It's comfortable. Heck, even sleep in it. Your girlfriend will love it. You will love it. Click on the link below and get your sexy cosplay t-shirt shipped to you. That was another line that I love from Joan Cusack.
Well.
Yeah, and that sounds just like a stand-up comedian joke. It's just so good.
Yeah.
He said, "Did you go to your high school reunion?" "Yes, it's like swelled, sir." She didn't say that, but that's why like her character was. And yeah, she goes to the booth. Now the whole thing was to make people a little bit at ease. Minnie Driver's a great actress, by the way. Everybody in this film, oh my gosh, the acting is just great. This is what you're supposed to do when you act in a film. I think if this film was made 20 years later, it'd be up for Academy Awards. It was just kind of way of its head of time. Back in those days, to do something, that's a black comedy, you know.
Definitely nowadays, like, it's definitely how comedy is nowadays, you know. But
exactly.
I guess back then, it definitely would have been different.
It was a black comedy. Yeah, this is for your Parker Posey type people. And if you guys don't know who Parker Posey is, you're very, very young. All right. Hey, I'm going to do something for you Parker Posey fans real quick. Fry piggies! Fry piggies! And you got to Google Parker Posey sometime. Anyways, so the kiss that Debbie lands on him on this film was to calm everybody down on the set. And it was improvised, and they decided to keep it. True story.
Wow.
They did not. When he comes in, she kisses him, and it was improvised to basically calm the set down a little bit to cut the tension. And
yeah, because it was like really tense and like hate.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, if there wasn't the kiss, I feel like there wouldn't have been a reason for him to go back, because she was basically like, screw you, guy.
Yeah. And so that was improvised. So
that was good on her part. That was great.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. And the thing is this is a British woman. Or else he would have been
a freaking stalker, honestly.
Yeah, and this is a British woman who's playing a very good northern Michigan accent really well. And, you know, and that's the reason why I say British actors I give them their props is they know how to do dialect really well. Most of them do. And she does her dialect really well, especially when she goes, harsh, harsh, harsh. Because most British people, when they try to do American accents, sound Canadian. And I'm not, because you go that, you're like, sure. Then you're like, that's Canadian. That's not. They say boot. What are you talking about? It's like, but see, Michigan is close enough to Canada where you could pull off that kind of accent. But she does really well with this Midwestern, Northwestern accent. It's just really great and just wonderful. And I really liked her in this. I think she's adorable in this. And I love the hitman's line when she's walking out with him at the Hippos Club and says, "I like her hair." No, it's at the reunion. "I like her hair." I do too. And Hank Azaria goes, I did too. And Hank Azaria, of course, is from The Simpsons. He plays the principal and several characters from The Simpsons. He's the hitman in this, and so he's another good actor that's in this. And for this, so moving along, so we were established a 10-year reunion. But Jeremy Piven's, before Entourage, for you Entourage fans, yay, who are out there, plays his best friend. And hasn't seen him for 10 years, and I really like this scene because it shows their closeness. And again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, like when you leave, you don't realize how your impact on someone, your best friend or your lover, how it affects them.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jeremy Piven's character comes in, who is John Cusack's friend. And talk about this now a little bit. Jeremy Piven's character, his friend, 10 years, man. 10 years.
That's so funny. That's a lot like how me and my friend are whenever we talk about things that happened in the past. We're like, whoa, man, 10 years, man.
Yeah. 10 years!
I know, I was like, oh my gosh.
I love it. And then his response is like, I went crazy, I joined the army, I got in a CIA program, then I became a professional killer. Can I sign up for that?
Yeah, I know. Everyone was like, okay, buddy.
Do you get dental with that? Great combination. My favorite thing is like they're doing the house, and then you introduce the other character comes in there, and he says, when my time comes, I want a wife like you and a house
like this. And the guy was like, we're leaving.
And you'll be safe here too. With the private security. So if I'm on the property, when do you get to use excessive force?
Oh my gosh, I know, that was so wild.
He said, so you can shoot me? Well, that's good. You made it look really good. Well, it's a 2-week course, you know. And the dialogue is just going back and forth. It's funny. So he rides off. It's just me. It was just me on the premises. I show the house from 11 to 3. I don't think they're potential buyers. I don't think you have an obligation to judge that, you know. And these are lines, like you said, you could improvise, like you could do, I guess you would call improvisation on this, because it'd be really easy to do, because like you can set up a scene like that. But one thing before we went into, I forgot he tries to go back home, and what happens when he tries to go back home?
His house is replaced with a supermarket.
Yes, it's an Ultimart.
I thought that was so funny. Yeah, there's just so many funny aspects to this movie that just kind of come out of nowhere.
And you know, and I'm only starting to experience that now, because I remember when I was a kid, you know, my grandma, you know, she loved driving us around. So when I was younger, I guess I was about 12 years old. But my grandma would not participate in anything. She'd just take us in the car and just tell us what every building used to be.
Aww.
And now that I'm older, now I'm finally experiencing that. But it was like, you know, my grandma would be like driving us around, going out, and you're just a kid, right? And you're like, why is she telling me this? Because it's like, it'd be like, and it'd be the same story, just like, now you see that place that used to be a burger hut, and then these people bought it out, and now it's this you know, casino or whatever. You walk down there and say, you see this place, this used to be the movie theater where grandma used to go to movies all the time. And you know, and that's what I think about with this, is the first change of coming into adulthood, when your home turns into an Ultimart. And he walks in there. One of them, and I don't know if you noticed it. One thing, now I don't have the entertainment system I used to have at my old house. My other house, I had like a 5.1 surround, and I loved listening to music in this. And the music is very important to this. And one of my favorite things of this is when they switch from the Guns N' Roses song version of Live and Let Die to the Muzak version at Ultimart. Live and Let Die is like one of the most brilliant transitions
I did not
ever.
notice that. That's amazing.
It's great. And I love when you see at the beginning, of course, people out there, and you know my criticism of Guns N' Roses, I think they suck. But I'll give them their props. I mean, I'm sorry people say, well, Brett Malkers have a different ranges of octaves. Yes, so does a cat screaming. But that doesn't mean I'll buy the album. So you hear Brett Malkers, and he does that thing, whatever. And then you hear da-da-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun. And then he walks in, and it changes to the Muzak form of that. Da-da-dun, And he
That's
walks
so
in the
crazy.
Ultimart, and it's one of my favorite scenes where he tells the guy, and guys, I worked at Colonial Food Mart, one of my favorite jobs when I was a kid. One year at the behind the thing, it's like a Minute Mart, for like a family owned version of Minute Mart. It was owned by Bailey's spoilt stepdaughter, so it was the coolest place in the world to work because she didn't give a care because her dad was in an oil business. She let us do whatever we wanted to, so you just go around the counter selling cigarettes to 15-year-olds, you know. And you could sell it to, like, the guy was making $5 per cigarette during those days because he was minor. He'd sell them to minors, and there at the time they were only $1.25, $1.19 a pack when I was a kid. So
That's insane. That's so much money.
I know.
I can't even imagine that.
So you go in there and this poor kid comes in there and he goes, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "I don't have to tell you that." Where's your boss at?
I work here.
I work here. Where does he live? Where does your boss live? I don't have to tell you that. So, the Ultimate Mart scene, then he realizes his mom's putting it home because she's on lithium, which is crazy. And then we go from there, and then, of course, Jeremy Piven's scene. So he goes back, calls Debbie up, and tells her that, you know, he wants to meet her at the Hippo Club. But one thing in between that, to get him to call her back, though, we have the action scene where, of course, the goon goes after him, who is it was the teacher, Benny the Jet Urquidez. He has 9 black belts and was a competitive fighter in the 60s and 70s, and he was also Cusac's kickboxing instructor. So he goes after John Cusack in the Ultimate Sword, which is a great scene. And if you want to touch on that, kiddo.
When they're shooting in the store?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, like, the store owner, the same teenage kid who was running the store, was not paying attention. He had his headphones on and he was playing the arcade video games. We didn't know what was going on behind him. And then John's character and the other guy are just running around the store, shooting at each other, demolishing the entire place. Like, bullet holes through the walls. They were shooting through the, like, refrigerators. The containers were spilling out everywhere. The place was just, like, demolished. And then before the other guy leaves, he puts a bomb in the microwave. So Martin has to grab the kid and, like, get him out of the supermarket before it explodes. It was a very, very wild scene.
Oh, and I love the kid's expression. It's like he says, "You all right?"
Man.
He says, "No, man. I ain't got no job now." It's like,
I know, he was like, "I'm hurt, I'm sad, I don't have any job." And I'm just like, dang, I feel that, dude.
He says, "Now I gotta go look for another job." Of course, I love my favorite scene too when he gets to Ultimate Mart at the first. He calls the therapist up and he says, "I guess you can't go back home, but you can shop there."
But you can shop there.
You never go back home, but you can shop there. So that, of course, that scene to me, I believe, forces him to call Debbie back up again to meet at the Hippo Club, which is where they talk a little bit, and we have this little bit of banter, getting to know each other, and meet Amy, and he tries to wear her down on trying to go with her with him to the reunion and all that, and eventually kind of does, but he does by sneaking into her house, basically. He gives her
pretty much, yeah. It was wild. I couldn't believe that. I was like, dude. So that's why I'm really glad that they did the whole kiss with first meeting scene, because if not, he would have just been a stalker, you know? Like, the entire movie would have just hit different.
Then the thing was, like, he gave her an airplane ride. That
That was funny. I really like that.
What if your dad comes in?
What if your dad comes in? That was so funny. I'll give him one too. That was so funny.
Their chemistry was really good in this, and I could see, like I said, at first it probably was a little bit of intimidating to work with her, but then they kind of made it a little bit easier on each other, and they just drew into such good chemistry, which is another thing too. Just the relationship didn't seem like it was forced. It was like they just
the characters were very believable in their roles and how they interacted with each other.
And of course, one of my favorite lines, and I probably quote this if you worked with me, you probably hear me quote this, where she goes, "You don't know what sex your cat is," and he goes, "I respect its privacy."
That was really funny. I couldn't believe that.
And that's my philosophy of life right there. It's like that drives me nuts, and it's like that's what I feel too. Is like I respect its privacy. That's my favorite one.
I feel like I feel like that would be a quote you'd really like. That's very you.
Well, that's true. It's like I mean, it drives me nuts. It's like I used to. It just burns my ass when I had a model one time like talking about the other model's sex or something. I was like, and my answer was, I don't care as long as they show up. It's like, I mean, is that like? I mean, I get a photographer like that where you're like, did they show up? That's what I want to know. It's like, then you ought to be thankful. It's like that. It's like this whole thing about like the model's like, yeah, I don't know, she's dating this guy and she's doing that. Like, I don't care. Does that affect the shoot?
Like, and this affects me how?
How does this affect me? It's like,
oh my god.
Yeah.
What I really like is when people try and tell you things that you have no business knowing in the first place and really don't even care about, and it's like, all right, okay,
okay.
Good for them.
And this affects me how?
Right, like, I'm gonna go eat lunch now. Bye.
Well, I think I remember talking to you. I was just joking. I said something about. I said, "Well, we just need to do this, this, this. If you don't do it, I'm going to sell you as a slave in Dubai or something like that." And I said, and I'm like, "Kiddo, are you listening to me?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, I got it. I'm supposed to go do this, and you're going to sell me as a slave in Dubai."
You're going to sell me as a slave in Dubai.
I just was checking to see if you were listening, and apparently you were. So. They were listening.
I was really young too, so that's what makes it so funny. But it's okay, because my mom was okay with you selling me as a slave in Dubai.
Apparently.
Oh man, the memories.
Well, it's just like, you just want to make sure someone's listening when you're talking to them. So you just drop something there that they don't notice. That's right. Oh, okay. I got your attention.
And then I flipped it right back to you.
Got it. It's like the guy at the anime thing says, "Aren't you going to check the monitors? Kiddo, are you going to check the monitors?" They're good. Just pretend. That's all you got to do. You don't have to. Just act like you know what you're doing. Don't go in there. That's what you gotta do. Just turn it down a little bit. Nope. Turn it back up. That's perfect. That's good. All right. So, anyways, where were we? Okay. So we understand that he doesn't understand. He knows the sex of his cat. He's gonna pick her up for the reunion. So he calls the doctor. The day before, right before the reunion. But there is one scene Now at the Hippo Club, I love. He walks in the door and he tells the two CIA guys again. Like Hank Azaria plays one of the CIA guys. I don't know who the other guy is, but Grosser's in the bathroom, and he tells him. He says, She doesn't trust me. I've got to gain her trust. Now I'm going to finish my drink, walk her out to the car, and then we'll drive to the hotel. I'll see you guys there, right? And Grosser's like, why don't you just get him? He said, well, he has to be in the act of a crime before we can do something. And then Hank Azaria says, he's coming back. And Grosser goes back into the bathroom. He goes,
into the bathroom. I didn't get that for a second. I was like, what? And then when it hit, it was really funny.
And Hank Azaria, he's just hilarious anyway. So the night of the reunion, he calls Dr. Ottoman. I think that's what his name was, and says, he needs help, what to say. He says, say over and over again, this is me breathing. He says, say it, think it. He says, say it 20 minutes. He says,
this is me breathing, and he
pulls the gun. This is me breathing. So he picks her up late, meets the father, and the father says, tells the father, he says, I'm a hired hitman. And then, of course, the father goes, that's a good business, good money, good market. And so they go to the reunion. So since you got a lot out of this reunion, I'll let you go over the reunion real quick. And
oh my gosh, it was pretty much just like you go in and everyone's like, oh my god, how are ya? What are you up to nowadays? Oh, I have 3 kids. I'm washing windows. I'm doing this. My brother-in-law is doing that. And it's just like all like the typical reunion stuff, and people are drinking and mingling, and
there's a lot of drinking in there.
There's a lot of drinking with the reunion. Yeah, it was crazy.
And drugs. There was some mention of drugs.
Yeah, there's that one kid that kept being like, "Oh, go do," what was he saying, cocaine? I think it was like,
yeah, blow. You want to do some blow?
And I was like, no.
He's a Debbie Radio, Bobby Beamer. You want to do some blow? No.
No.
And that was another thing. He was on coke. He was the BMW dealership. But
they're having a really good time at the reunion. They're like up in the bleachers watching everyone and just really, rekindling the spark and everything until one of the, was it Grosse? It was one of the hitman guys gets into the reunion and takes a tag and pretends he was supposed to be there and ends up attacking our main character in a hallway. And then he's forced to kill him because he's being attacked, and then everything goes downhill because his girlfriend sees and she runs away in terror. And then his best friend's like, what's going on? Did you kill this guy? And the guy was like, yeah, help me wrap him up. And I love how the best friend hadn't seen this guy in 10 years, but he was so down to get rid of that body with him.
Yeah, and exactly. And I think that's a metaphor of friendship kind of deal. And I think that's one reason why they established that first scene is to show how close they were, because they shared a joint together. And then towards the end, then they do a body, and then he realizes that he wasn't kidding about the professional killer thing. But again, the music is perfect for this, because when they're doing 99 love balloons, and it starts out with that soft beginning, and then when the saw comes into the song, then they're putting the body in, and then when you hear the drum fill-in comes in, you'll see them going down the stairs with the body to pick up a little bit. So like I said, the music is just great in this. It just fits so perfectly. You just gotta go back and listen to it to see how well they edited the film.
Syncs up.
Yeah, it syncs up with the music. Because I never dreamed in my life. I was like, you're going to use 99 love balloons, 99 red balloons for that scene. And they do, and it works out perfectly. So Debbie's appalled. Thinks he's a psycho. And I think, too, you pick up in the film that he was a loner always. And there was like this thing where like if they had a yearbook thing was like most likely to be a serial killer, it would be underneath his name there, underneath his picture in the yearbook. And it was that kind of guy, you know, because he just probably was very unemotional. Because, like, for you to do that kind of thing, you can't have, like, a lot of emotions to be a killer. That's the toughest thing. It amazes me when I was so younger. People say, oh, you're so emotional. Now, the older you get, your emotions succumb. Now people complain about me not being emotional. I'm like, what do you want from me?
I know. It's so crazy.
And,
I don't know. You can't please anyone ever. It's never going to happen.
No, it's like, am I too emotional? I'm not emotional enough. Which one is it? You know, like...
I don't know. Never will know.
Yeah, because it's like... But anyways, that's probably what his issue was. Like, he was one of those guys that people thought would probably grown up to be, you know, bad person. Because there's this scene where he's with the one guy who does coke, and he of course doesn't fight with him, and she thinks, well, he's really changed, you know, he's become mature, right? And then you get the scene,
and then immediately after that is whenever the guy attacks him. So
yeah, see what he type of person is, and it changes the film. I like it the way this is set up because she does go visits him to give him a second chance to explain things, and it doesn't really work out. And then I love my favorite line on this film where she goes, "You don't get to have me." And it works because when I saw that for the first time, I really thought that it was it. He didn't have a chance. It's over.
Yeah, I thought it was over there too.
And I thought,
like, but how they pulled it off and really related it all in the end just really pulled through. So I applaud that.
yeah. And what's that triggered line? And if you watch the whole film, there's one triggered line, and I don't know if you caught it or not.
When?
You're a handsome devil. What's your name? Okay, the mother. All right. When he looks in
the mother did say it, and then he also said it to himself in the mirror.
And then when he picks up the file.
The what?
The red file, which is the target.
Really? Yeah, he does. That's right.
So that's the triggered line.
I didn't catch that.
And I think what those scenes are for show that's when fate. I think that's how many times fate intervenes in this film, and this is the last time fate intervenes because his reaction is effing luck.
Yeah, that was wild. I couldn't believe it.
And what happens? Spoilers alert! If you haven't seen the film.
Spoiler alert! The person he was hired to kill and the whole time ended up being her father, and he's like, "Oh man, better go save him and not kill him."
Yeah, because he has a new lease on life, and he's in love with his the man's daughter, which
both.
Either he has a new lease on life, or he's in love with that man's daughter. So he ends up protecting the Debbie Newberry. Debbie Newberry's dad. Throws him in the bathtub. We get a good scene with Dan Aykroyd and him. A good shootout. I love this shootout. One of my favorite shootouts. Towards the end, the two CIA guys get it. And then, of course, he ends up winning against Dan Aykroyd. And then Debbie and him run off together.
Yay!
Which some people might think it would be like a romantic comedy, dark comedy type.
I mean, I enjoyed it, and for someone who doesn't really like romantic stories, I thought it was good.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I guess I did watch a lot of rom-coms back in the day, and you guys, you can take the bad from action films and the bad from romantic comedies, and they're like this. You know, sometimes you do have to shut down your brain. I mean, I'm seriously, you gonna watch Fast and Furious?
Yeah.
You gonna watch a rom-com? or you do a little this? she's not gonna marry him. That's the way you get through those, but this is kind of film where you can kind of use your brain and enjoy the rom-com or the action at the same time. It's kind of like a marriage between the two. It's like getting your peanut butter and your chocolate at the same time. Yeah.
How weird.
Yeah, I know. It's just Reese's Pieces, man. I can't tell you how they made. But you're allowed 10% of rat droppings in a Reese's Pieces every. Alright, so let's see here. Technical stuff on real quick. Music, great. I think it really intertwines the film. Even there's a lot of white reggae in it with the Clash and that kind of thing. I like it. It just fits perfectly for the film. Gets that 80s vibe. It takes that 80s music and puts it to really good use for dramatic effect. Some things like the under pressure moment is sort of his catharsis with the baby, where it's kind of a 2001 Space Odyssey, realizing that life is precious when he's holding the baby. That kind of thing is really, really great, and I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And just a great scene, and they use the song Under Pressure, and it amazes me, folks. I'm not going to say that modern music sucks, but the song Under Pressure, which was like, if the guys almost forgot the bass line when they were doing the song, but you're talking about the talent of vocals of David Bowie and Freddie Mercury combined. Yes, your music sucks. When a gay man and an androgynous man can come together to make such great music, yes, your music sucks, because it has to be one of the most greatest collaborations of music ever assembled. And you know, with David Bowie and of course Freddie Mercury and their vocals, oh my gosh, no one can touch those two guys together. And that song does bring that moment, you know, that Under the Pressure, the song, you know, brings that moment, you know, where he's, you know, that cathartic moment where he's thinking about life itself, you know, the meaning of life, getting out of that. So philosophically, yeah, this is what this is. This is 10 years of transitioning from, you know, childhood to manhood kind of a thing. This is a hero's journey story. Basically, except for he doesn't really have, I guess the sage would be the psychologist, if you would want to go back.
He's more of an anti-hero also.
Yeah, could be. But it's still that, what do you call, I call it transitioning stories. Like you look at like Shaun of the Dead, 28 Days Later, those films where they're that kind of thing. And then you mentioned a little bit like the psycho stuff, like she said shockaboo therapy. I got a quick kick of reality in the head, you know, kind of thing. For it. That's what I think the whole film is about, is basically, you know, finding the importance of things. Sometimes we lose the importance of life by going after some things that we don't like to do. You know, it's like, you know, it's like, I feel it's stupid, and I got to that point in my life where I was like, 10 years working like a married person when you're not married is just insane. It's crazy. I understand, like, my brother's got kids, he works hard, he does a lot of things he doesn't want to do, and he has to because he's married and got kids. I don't. And that's the reason why, to do that kind of thing, to do something what you don't want to do and you're married, yeah, I understand that. First of all, you're married to someone anyways, so you got to adapt there. So doing something that you don't want to do, I understand, to raise your kids because you want them to grow up healthy and that kind of thing. And in some cases, you don't want to end up in jail either. But
making people dying, so I'm just moving it upstairs.
Yeah, I noticed it was kind of glotchy there. So, but anyways, that's what I kind of see in this film, is like rethinking your life, restarting it, trying to get, you know, figure out what's really important in life. And regarding that, and I think it's a great film. I think it's enjoyable. It's very entertaining as well. If you want to think, it's there. If you don't want to think, it's there as well. So that's my thoughts on it. Who do I recommend it to? I recommend it to anyone over 20 years old. Someone who's, maybe start from your college age all the way up to probably middle age.
I would probably recommend it to somebody who has been out of high school for about 10 years and is going to their reunion or has been to their reunion. I think that'd be like the best time to watch this film, you know what I mean?
So you're saying probably 27-year-old person?
How old are you? Like 20, you'd be like 28 or yeah, you'd be like 28 around there.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So you're saying someone 27 years old, they need to wait that long? Okay.
I mean, they don't have to wait that long, but I feel like you would appreciate it the most after you've had or not had your high school reunion.
Well, yeah, I can see that. For that, I mean, I just think, like I said, I just brought college people because I figured this is kind of a mirror of what you're going to go through. That one of these days you are going to be nostalgic, I guess you would say. I remember when I was younger, I'll never forget this, is they used to have a lot of ode to the 50s, like 50s music, like the Happy Days. There was all these television shows like that was to the 50s. Mm-hmm. And it's like now, I'm starting to see that with the 80s.
Yeah.
And it's so weird to see it because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm those people.
I'm those people.
Yeah, and it's sad. It really is. It's like I watched a Scottish comedian the other day was talking about, said, yeah, when I was younger, we had Madonna. She did like this. And now there's Nicki Minaj and she does this.
Yeah.
And I was like thinking, dude, you don't know how right you are. All right, folks, that's it. That's all I got to touch on.
Who's your daddy?
Want to start podcast? It's easy. Just click on the link below. PodBean has everything for you, all the tools you need, from advertising your podcast or just plain ideas to starting a podcast. Click on the link below and get 1 month free with PodBean.